We are already witnessing the signs of a moral crisis unfolding in our everyday lives. The values that once held deep sacredness have been reduced to mere trivialities, and the distinction between right and wrong has become increasingly blurred. The Virgin Mary's message could not be clearer. This moral decline is not simply an isolated issue, but part of a much larger spiritual battle that demands our immediate response. We find ourselves living in an era where the very foundation of morality is under attack. If we do not stand firm against the forces of darkness that seek to distort and destroy our values, we risk losing what remains of our spiritual and moral integrity. The Virgin Mary urges us to recognize the seriousness of this spiritual decay and to take action by recommitting ourselves to a life grounded in virtue, prayer, and unwavering faith. She calls on us to rise above the growing confusion, to hold fast to the truth, and to embrace the light that comes from a life lived in accordance with God's will. One of the most pressing issues the Virgin Mary highlights is the alarming decline in religious vocations. Fewer and fewer individuals are dedicating themselves to religious life, whether as priests, nuns, or other spiritual leaders. This decrease in vocations weakens the spiritual foundation of the Church and leaves communities exposed to the confusion and spiritual darkness sweeping across the world. The absence of strong spiritual leaders to guide and protect us is one of the greatest dangers we face as a society. Without these leaders, the faithful are left vulnerable to the forces of evil and division. Religious vocations are essential to the life of the Church and to the health of society. Priests, nuns, and other religious figures serve as beacons of light, offering guidance, spiritual nourishment, and the sacraments that sustain our souls. Yet, as the number of vocations declines, the Church faces an existential crisis. Without enough priests, how can we receive the Eucharist? Without religious figures to lead us in prayer and devotion, how can we remain strong in faith? The decline in vocations is not just a statistical trend. It is a symptom of a deeper spiritual crisis, one that we must address urgently if we are to preserve the Church's spiritual foundation. The Virgin Mary calls on us to actively support and nurture those who feel a calling to religious life. She encourages us to promote the value of religious vocations within our families, communities, and churches. By encouraging young people to consider a life of service, we can reignite the flame of faith in future generations, ensuring that the Church will continue to be a source of light and hope in the world. Perhaps the most sobering part of the Virgin Mary's message is the warning of divine wrath. She speaks of a purifying event, an act of divine justice, that will cleanse the world of the evil that has taken root. This event will not be a punishment, but a necessary purification, meant to restore balance and harmony in a world that has been led astray by sin and corruption. The forces of lust, materialism, and moral decay have contributed to this spiritual imbalance, and only through divine intervention can it be rectified. This purification will be a time of great trial for humanity, but it will also present an opportunity for redemption. Those who have prepared spiritually and aligned their lives with God's will emerge from this purification stronger and more resilient. This trial is not an end, but a new beginning, a chance for humanity to return to its Creator and to be renewed in faith and righteousness. The Virgin Mary's message is not one of despair, but of hope. It is a call to action, to prayer, and to vigilance. It is a reminder that despite the growing darkness, there is always the light of God's love and mercy. By responding to her call, we can contribute to a revival of faith, a restoration of moral order, and a spiritual renewal that will help us navigate the trials ahead. Let us heed her warnings, pray for an increase in vocations, and prepare ourselves for the purification to come. By doing so, we will emerge stronger in faith and more determined to live according to God's will.